Hey team, some of you have asked me about teaching vitality on the Carryback, and I usually just kind of get the back of their financial game plan and I just go through these kind of 7 points, the indexation and so on and so forth, and I like to kind of write it out and kind of talk through it as I go through and kind of draw diagrams and that kind of thing. That's kind of how I like to do it. But I appreciate that maybe that's not as easy to learn as just reading a slide. So what I did is I put together 9 slides which kind of make the key points. Now, just to clarify, you still need to learn the vitality products. You need to learn what indexation is. You need to learn protected life and serious illness, etc. This doesn't cover all the points. This is designed to give you a little prompt of what to cover, but again, you need to kind of touch on, you need to know your stuff basically, okay? So this is not a replacement for your knowledge, all right? But hopefully this will help you. So now this is the point where you do this, is you've just finished on the Carryback, you've finished the game plan, you've gone through the game plan, and you're just about to go from the game plan into showing the ABC choices, okay? So rather than just go straight into the ABC choices and say, hey, let me show you your quotes, and then as you're going through, you're saying, oh, this has got protected life and serious illness, and trying to teach that while you're showing them the quotes, because at this point, all they're really doing is looking at the pound signs and the numbers. I always like to teach them vitality before I show them any figures. What I find is if you do a good job on this, before you turn over to your quotes, they're already thinking, I hope I've got that protected life and sick, I hope I've got that vitality plus. And so when you turn over, they're like, oh great, he's quoting me for that or something, okay? So this is the kind of overview. So this is how I would do it. Now, before we go on to your life cover quotations, I want to just teach you a little bit about vitality and some of the things that they do and why we're just really excited to partner with them, okay? Now, one of the things that Vitality do is something called indexation. And this is something that helps you beat inflation. Now, most companies do this. It's something that which is pretty much standard and everybody has it, but it can only be added at the start of policy. So typically you'd have it on the beginning. But the thing is, if you wanted to not have it later on, what would happen is they write to you on the anniversary of your policy, and they say, hey, we're going to increase your policy by £2,000 a month cover amount and £1.67, for example. And at that point you can say, actually, I don't need that. I think I'm happy keeping it where it is. And you can do that and they won't put it up. And the second year they'll ask you again. And in fact, I think if it's 3 years that you decline it, then they'll just take it off. They won't ask you again and you can't have it back. So you don't really need to decide on this until the anniversary of your first year, okay? We can just read through these things. Also, when you have indexation, it automatically applies a discount to your premium, so it's definitely worth having for that as well, okay? Does that make sense? Great. Another thing is flexibility. So your policy can kind of adapt to your needs. And what happens with many policies is, let's say you have a £300,000 life cover, and 5 years from now you decide, I only need 200,000. So normally what happens is the company will say, well, no problem, we'll cancel that policy off, we'll replace it with a policy for 200,000, but of course they quote you at a new age because you're 5 years older, right? So you end up paying more money for that 200,000 than what you paid originally. So what this does, Vitality does, it kind of adapts to your circumstances. So in that instance, Vitality would just say, no problem, we'll knock off 100,000 and you just keep the new payment at 200,000. It's the same policy number, same account. If you wanted to increase the policy, then they would underwrite the difference and not like the whole amount again. So it would underwrite the difference so that you got you still kept your original amount at the rate you were when you took it. Okay, so it's really kind of adaptable, which is pretty cool. Now, there's something called critical illness versus serious illness cover. Okay. There's a few different things. I'm going to touch on these a little bit, but critical illness cover is something which kind of pays out once on a limited number of conditions. So certain types of cancer, certain kinds of severity of stroke, those kind of things. If somebody went totally blind, it would pay out. But if they went blind in one eye, for example, then it wouldn't, okay? So it's kind of an all or nothing kind of policy. Typically, it can cover, on a normal critical illness policy, they may cover something like 40 to 48, 40 to 50 critical illnesses. With Vitality, they have a different perspective, and they're able to cover actually on their comprehensive cover up to 174 conditions. So obviously people are much more likely to make a claim with Vitality than they are with any other company. And the way they do that is because they base things on severity, okay? So what it really says is, if you use the example of the person that went blind in one eye, in a normal policy it wouldn't pay out, but with Vitality they look at that and say, well, actually that person going blind in one eye actually has an impact in their life, and so they should get a percentage of that money too. And so they would pay a percentage based on the severity of the condition. And of course that's why they can cover more and more conditions, and of course you're much more likely to end up making a claim with them, or be able to make a claim. Does that make sense? Now, serious illness cover is fantastic. What normally happens with serious illness cover is, in fact, if I go back a slide, what normally happens on severity is this. Let's assume that somebody has a policy for £100,000 and they get a condition which pays out at 50%. So they get £50,000. Then what happens is they've still got that £50,000 left. So should they get any other condition, they still have money that can pay out. Also, it's interesting to note that those policies often cover the children as well. And so if that policy is gone, the children are no longer covered. Okay? Now, on top of that, they have something called protected life and serious illness cover. And hopefully you can see this, but basically this gives the example. If this family had a £100,000 serious illness policy, they made a claim that paid out 50%, that means they would have 50,000 left. But when you have protected life and serious illness cover, what happens is it automatically tops it back up to the original cover amount. So actually, they've still got 100,000. And again, if they need to make a claim again, guess what? It still tops it back up to 100,000. And in fact, it will keep doing that until you've actually claimed up to 3 times the original cover amount. So when somebody has £100,000 of cover, it's actually like having £300,000 of cover, but you can only ever have 100,000 maximum at one time. It's kind of like protected no claims bonus for your car insurance. So that's a very phenomenal, product and service. And again, I've never seen it sort of anywhere else. One of the challenges with serious illness cover is that it's more expensive because you're more likely to claim on it. Okay, and what people like about it typically is, with a kind of the comprehensive type policy, or the Vitality policy as they call it, it actually covers the children automatically for up to 50% of the adult's policy, up to sort of £25,000. But if the adult can't afford to have serious illness cover themselves, of course that means the children can't. Okay, but Vitality said, well, what if you still want to protect your children? Well, actually, as long as you have a life policy, you can have a separate serious illness cover policy for your children to make sure that they're also protected. And basically, the children are covered up to 18 years or up to 23 if they're in full-time education. So it's a pretty cool policy. Now, Vitality, as I said to you before, they have a kind of an unusual way of looking at things, very unique. And they're all about encouraging a healthier lifestyle. So every Vitality policy qualifies for kind of what's called Vitality discounts. And the discounts are on things like Champneys. So you get 75% discount to go on Champneys spa weekends. If you want to buy like a Polar or Garmin Fitbug or Fitbig, the thing to count your steps, you get a discount on that. You get things like discounted health checks and so on. Anything that kind of will help you to live a healthier lifestyle, stop smoking courses, things like that. And everybody qualifies for that, okay? Then they have another program, which is it's like a Vitality Rewards program. It costs a little bit more every month. It's a minimal amount, but what it does is it rewards you for this healthy lifestyle, okay? So for example, if you get so many steps in a week, then you get things like a free Starbucks. You get different bandings, so gold, silver, bronze, platinum, those kind of things. And the more points you score throughout the year, the higher your banding, the higher your rewards and discounts. So for example, you can qualify for a free cinema ticket every week, or 50% off the purchase of a bike, or cashback on healthy food from Ocado, or discounted British Airways flights, and so on. Another thing which is quite interesting is you can actually get a watch for £69, an Apple Watch for £69, so people tend to like that too. And again, there's other things too. But the whole idea is that if they can engage you in this healthier lifestyle and reward you for that, you actually save money on these different areas, which actually kind of offsets the amount that you pay. So in my case, I have a policy, and the rewards that I get just on the discount on my gym membership and my cinema tickets alone, and my Starbucks actually saves me more money every month than I actually pay to protect my family. So again, if you engage in this, it's a phenomenal way of doing things. There's also things like cashback. If you score points every year, they give you cashback and things like that. So it's a phenomenal program, very unique, and certainly we use it very much in our household. Okay, so if all that makes sense to you, let me go through and show you some of your quotes. All right, thanks. So now I then go on to the quotes and I show them the ABCs, and of course, they decide on whatever the option is, and so on. Also, you want to take with you the Vitality brochures that are relevant to those things too, because of course that's giving them an overview, but you want to make sure they've got more detail than just that. You can get all those brochures and things from Vitality directly. If you're not sure how to, contact our office manager and he will tell you what to do. Okay.